Back in September of 2020, GW released a new anniversary model to celebrate the birthdays of their stores. Owing to it being locked down in much of the world, that model was available only through the web store for a short time, and then it was later released as a store anniversary model, which is how I got hold. Greetings everyone, I am Sister Lilia and welcome to my armoury. Let's take a look at Ripper Jackson. To date, this is one of two new Catachan sculpts. We are yet to see more. So, on the back of it you can see how much the price is now in Australian. Gotta say I don't like their modern character pricing. But yes, at the moment, looking at the guard codex, this is not a legal loadout, because they shifted the bolter into the melee weapons selection section of the army list in the codex, which I find wild. I find it interesting that I don't think that's been fixed yet. They've nerfed the Krieg engineer, because somehow a squad that only gets one chance to do mortal wounds is somehow broken. Yeah. Now, let's just pull that out. So, I can just get it out without warping the spirit. Big plastic tray. But yes, here we have Ripper Jackson. So, oops, let's not send it everywhere. Like, we've got a bit of what looks like it could be a nid. We've got the plant, we've got the chainsword in the back piece, we've got the bolter being carried on the edge of the hand, leg, back of part of torso, oh no, front of torso, back of torso, leg, plant part, pistol and hand and arms. Neat. So, the instructions are going to be pretty straightforward because there's not actually all that much to build. Now, the data sheet in this is old. They didn't update the data sheet, I don't think. Veteran Sergeant. Oh, maybe it can. Yeah. I mean, you can take her as a veteran sergeant. I am going to make her into a company commander, or platoon commander. You'll see that in a moment, once I've built it. Okay, so an interesting point of comparison with this model and a character I unboxed before it is that in the box, to protect Ripper Jackson, there's a plastic protector. This model doesn't come with that. So as a result, the sprues got warped. That's kind of sad. When I got this model, I knew I wanted to build a command squad to go with it. So between the bits I had from earlier in the year and a visit to a bits supplier, I procured the parts I needed, and not just from that not just from the guard faction. So you can see me here assembling some models for it and trimming off parts so as to make things attach. A thing that I knew I wanted to have was a custom command box, which is what I am building there. So first off, I start with some balsa wood and then cover it in plastic hard and trim it down so that it fits better, and just keep covering and sealing it up with plastic hard so the wood's not visible. Then I attach on parts from the comms units that come with solar auxiliary vehicles, and then build up the structure a bit more so as to make sure that the comms unit actually fits on there properly. And unfortunately I seem to be leaning off camera a bit because the camera's a bit too high up, or angled too high. So you see me put the antenna on there and attempt to have the rest of my putting things on be obvious. I put a support bracket across it so that something attaches to the two antennas. Next up I come in with an arm that's holding a one arm that holds a lasgun, one arm that holds a combat knife, and attach them on. Then I proceed to build the arms for the veteran with the banner, and then set up the other two models, well, the start of them. One of them I modify up so that I can fit on the flamer, well, the heavy flamer's fuel tank, because I just thought these guys are going to be attached to a squad that have a flamer, that have multiple flamers, so why not make sure they've also got a heavy flamer, just so as to further augment the throwing out of fire at the foe. Now I had to modify things a bit to make things fit, and apparently the flamer had its own backpack, so it had its own fuel tank, so instead I modified it, and once properly attached I end up coming in with some plasticard in a little bit. But next it's the medic. Now the medic I had a bit of trouble with, and with getting the arms to sit properly, so as I did with the flamer. Now you see me shaping and modifying things a bit, and making sure things sit properly on the flamer model. Then I proceed to make sure the backpack's actually glued on and not just held on with friction. I attach in a head for the comms specialist and further augment his backpack, and making use of more parts from the solar auxiliary stuff. Then I cut and bend a bit of plasticard rod to make a fuel line to the heavy flamer, just to figure if I've got the flamer backpack on there, I might as well make sure he's got a fuel line to it. It felt weird that it didn't have one, given even Sisters of Battle have fuel lines to their heavy flamers. And one thing I do off camera is end up, after this, is actually come in and do some green stuff work to add hair onto the flamer and medipack models, so that they actually have a so that they actually don't have exposed gaps, as there was a bit of a mismatch in parts, but no, well, these things happen. You see me just shaping and making sure that I can get that plasticard rod to attach in properly, and finally getting it shaped in and getting it glued in. At least with super glue I don't have to wait for it to stick like I would with plastic glue. Now I cut off carefully the hand for a lasp gun and attach it onto the veteran's hand, and it sits on there. Next up I sort out a head for him. I just want to make sure he has a head, but I initially had thought of using more of the head from the Sentinel, but I kind of just only wanted to use, kind of was like, yeah, no, I'll just use that on one model. And then you see me here attaching an aquila onto the back, in addition to part of that chopped down control panel piece. And we've got just more details going onto the models, and attaching in a whole bunch of grenades so that everyone has grenades, and water tanks and ammo packs, and even some combat knife holsters. Even though Catachan have their own Catachan fangs, I didn't have any spare, so... And then Ripper Jackson is done, and I also do some base sculpting. And so we have her command squad built. And I based them off camera because I was still working out the idea. But yeah, I've set up, while I've got her with the default base, I made some plants, and while I'm aware that the undergrowth attempts on their bases probably won't look very good, too bad. These catachans are as done as they're probably going to be, so I figured I'd share them with you. Because, well, yeah, so we've got a banner one, we've got her now. An interesting quirk of the current Guard Codex is that Guard get the option, Catachan platoon commanders get the option to take a bolt gun instead of a melee weapon, and can swap out their ranged weapon being a las pistol, for a plasma pistol, which is exactly what I did. Now she's also got the chainsword on her back, and she has got a holstered pistol, so I can give her whatever sodding loadout I need. But as for the command squad with her, I've got a Vox operator. We've got with a customized Master Vox. Now, because it didn't show up very well on camera, that's what the back of the Vox caster looks like. We've got some detail on the top of it. We've got the back detail. Now, as for the heavy flamer, I said I put in some hair, so I went with paint. When I painted it, I went with kind of a brown that was honestly a bit more orange than it looked now. So we've got the flamer, we've got the medic, and that veteran with the banner. So yeah, these have been built up, and I'll try and put up some kind of glamour shots. But yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and actually, before I end it, let's just have her on there. So I got to the point where I was done emotionally with this model. It's a nice enough model. Personally, I'm looking forward to seeing what GW do with Catachan at some point. As much as I want them to bring back the other regiments, Catachan desperately need updated sculpts. Like, I'm not kidding when I say the normal Catachan troops are about 20 years old. Like, they came out in an old, like Catachan have got shafted. Out of all the Guard armies, they desperately need new stuff far more than the Cadians did. Krieg getting new stuff was cool. I mean, Cadians had to eventually. The molds were dying. I mean, that's probably the reason GW updated the drop pod too, because let's face it, the mold on a lot of the older kits is not holding up very well. But it's a shame that, we only got two very awkward to get hold of models. Like, at least this one I was able to get through a store anniversary. But the other one was only really available to GW, made available to independent stockists during the pandemic. It was probably originally going to be an event-exclusive miniature. I'm still going to try and get hold of it, but at this point I've got packs coming up, and Animanga, so yeah. I might add a few details to this one before I put it in the box for this quarter, but otherwise, yeah. So as far as getting hold of this model, if you can get hold of this at retail, I'd still say it's a bit expensive. At the same time, it's a nice sculpt, and if you want the sculpt, go for it. But if you just want a company commander, just use the basic one. But if you want some diversity in your Guard in terms of what your commanders look like, this is a cool sculpt. Yeah, there's not too much I can add. It's a decent enough model. It could do with, like, Catachan need a new company commander kit. Like, they need the proper platoon command squad kit to be updated. They need the infantry squad to be updated, or jungle fighters squad. Heavy weapons squad need to be updated, and they need some specialist units. Like, Krieg have got all manner of stuff. Like, Krieg got their engineers. They've got the Death Riders. They've got Marshal What's-its-name on the horse, and a few others. Cadians have also got various special units. Well, Cadians mainly, their main special unit is Kaskin, or Kazakin. But like, Catachan could really do with like a defoliator squad, or maybe even defoliator tank. Although they probably can't call it that, because I think Star Wars, and by extension Disney, have trademark on that term, for particularly in relation to a tank, because there was a weapon called the defoliator in Clone Wars, and there was probably a toy sold called the defoliator tank. But yeah, as far as this model is concerned, it's decent. It could be better, it could be worse. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and for the Emperor. Now onto something even greener than the plasma on this model's weapon for tomorrow.